Hey LeGrand Alive, welcome to Coffee with Will, brought to you by Grande Hospital, Anything 2 Digital, EONI, Northwest Furniture, and Les Schwab Tire Center. And I'm here today with Paul Anderes, who is a local teacher at Grande High School and also a candidate for the Union County Commissioner position. And he's here today to chat with me a little bit about himself, his life, and his candidacy for the upcoming election. So thank you so much for coming in and chatting with me today, Paul. We have been trying to get this going for a while, but running for Union County Commissioner, I would assume, is a little bit of a busy. Your schedule's probably a little busy.
It is busy. It's been a good busy. I've been to a lot of different functions, city council meetings, fundraisers, anywhere there's very much of any kind of crowd, and sometimes not. I like to get in there and let people know who I am and introduce myself. Been living in the Valley for 22 years, but it seems like I'm still every day meeting people that have no idea who I am.
I was one of those people. I had never met you up until you came in about 2 or 3 months ago and introduced yourself, and we were off and running. So, yep. But having done a little bit of investigation, you've been, like you said, here for almost 22 years, and almost that entire time you've taught at Grande High School for over 20 years at this point, right?
Yep.
Why did you decide to come to Union County, and what kept you teaching high school for so long?
A couple of things.
I mean, you must really like children, or you must be really into self-emaciation, like one of the two.
And people say this all the time, and sometimes it becomes, oh, they're just saying it. I truly love teaching. I like kids. I like seeing that aha moment when they get something. But really what brought us to Union County was my wife is from, her family's from Union County. Her great-grandmother was born in Cove.
Wow.
She has just incredibly strong roots. At one time I said it's difficult for us to go anywhere without having a family member be there, which is good. And for me it was a little bit strange because in this world I have one aunt, one uncle, and one cousin. And
wow, that's not very many.
Right. And at any given time we're in a room with 10 times that many here in LeGrand. But it was partly that, and then the opportunities here. Ag program opened up after I had been teaching at another school for a little over 8 years. And Adrian, Oregon, great little town, incredible place to start teaching, especially agriculture. I was able to expand a little bit at natural resources instead of just all agriculture, which for me was a good fit because it really lent itself to what I was raised around and had an interest in.
Now, that kind of all being said, a lot of the work and the teaching that you've done up until this point. Now, Paul teaches agriculture, forestry science, and anything else at the high school? Am I missing anything?
Up until this year, I taught woodshop also for a number of years. Agriculture, beginning agriculture, plant science, animal science, forestry, and I teach a wildland fire class also.
So I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that Paul's a little bit of an earthy guy. Like he's not unfamiliar with getting his hands a little bit dirty and covered in sawdust.
That's true.
Tell me a little bit about why have you decided to make kind of these very down-to-earth fire, wood, plants. Why have you decided to specialize in this and also to teach that to kids?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the way I was raised. My father was a professional forester. He graduated from University of California at Berkeley, and he managed timberlands for different logging corporations while I was growing up. We lived in the mountains. There is actually I don't know that it exists anymore, but there is a very small island of private ground inside Kings Canyon National Park in California, where the redwoods are.
Wow, really?
Yes, and
who's the lucky guy that's got that plot of land?
We lived there in the summer times growing up.
Wow.
My siblings and my parents and I remember it was a very short walk, about a half mile over this ridge, not a big jaunt at all, but to the visitor station at Kings Canyon National Park. And growing up in that environment, I think, formed what I am today. I am certainly a person that is a huge proponent of multiple use of our natural resources. I grew up skiing, I love that. Backpacking, hiking, we used to horsepack at times. As I said, my father logged federal and private ground over the years, and I saw the way that his vision between conception of what a timber sale would look like, to the harvest, to the replanting, to make it so that we had those products to the people of the United States, and leaving the ground in better shape than when he found it, healthier, if you will. And I think we've moved away from that through litigation, and I think there's some things that I could do as a county commissioner that could help kind of bring the balance back. And I'm certainly not saying that we need to clear cut everything or anything.
That's not your platform,
like
burn everything to the ground?
No, well, actually, kind of the opposite.
or cut everything to the ground.
Right. And then my fire was, I don't want to say it was by accident, but it was really between teaching in the school year and having a little bit of time in the summertime. I started doing contract firefighting, and that led to me teaching the students at the high school about fire and getting them certified so that they could go out and fight wildland fire.
Huh. So a lot of people, have this sort of, almost emotional connection, almost, sometimes even to the level of like a spiritual connection with the outdoors and with nature and with plants and animals. Is that something that you've experienced, or is it more just that you've been working around it for so long that you just have an appreciation for it?
I think having grown up in it and being fortunate enough to see so many different places, and there are some places that I wouldn't call it spiritual, because that's really not who I am in that realm.
Yeah.
I mean, raised Catholic, but they're special places. Parks, some wilderness area, I think are necessary in the mix, but at the same time, like I said, I think the pendulum has gone too far where we're going to protect everything. And some of those are, they're commercial forests that need to be managed and harvested and replanted and provide goods and services and recreational opportunities to the people of the United States. And I think that's very important that we find a better balance.
Yeah, and that's actually something that we recently had Greg Wooldridge, who is running for governor of Oregon in here. And that was actually I asked him, what is one thing that he has seen and observed in because he was talking about how he tried to listen to the different places that he went. And I asked him, well, what do you see here in Eastern Oregon? And what he said to me was, he said, I think one of the things that the Eastern Oregon struggles with is balancing, getting people to work, but also stewarding its natural resources. Do you agree that that's maybe an issue that we struggle with here in Eastern Oregon? And if so, how can we solve that?
I think that if you look at even prior to me moving to Northeast Oregon, there was a movement to curtail harvest. There was a slogan that some environmental groups had that was cattle free in '93. So that goes back a while.
Yeah.
And I think that they were fairly successful getting their agenda through. But at that time, we had multiple mills all over Northeast Oregon, and that's gone. And I think, like I said, that pendulum needs to come back. We probably need to take a look at how we manage our forests with the catastrophic fires that we have. It becomes an issue of, do we use it for consumers, or do we let it burn and have it consumed that way? And having worked on fire and on thinning and forestry restoration, there's plenty of work for a lot of people out there. One of the issues becomes, especially on a federal level, how's it going to be paid for? And there's some stewardship contracts that are really innovative and good. Take a little bit of timber, do a little bit of thinning, and the timber pays for the thinning, and it's kind of a win-win for everybody. But at the same time, without that infrastructure and workforce to work in those industries, we need to be able to make sure that we maintain a specific level so that it's not up and down and feast or famine. I think I said it the other night that a series of base hits rather than a home run.
So aiming for the smaller ones,
Right,
which add up to a bigger one.
Again,
rather.
and it took a long time. I mean, we were talking, early 90s to get to where we are. I think as we bring that pendulum back a little bit the other way, it's going to take some time.
Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about the run for county commissioner here. So you've gone from, and I don't know if I mentioned this in the interview, Paul was during college a sheep shearer was that in Adrian? Was that in Central Oregon?
No, actually I did shear some. Adrian was after college, mostly college years, paying for part of my college. Certainly not all of it sheep shearing, but tough, hard, back-breaking work. But I had probably the softest hands around because they were always in lanolin. And one of the things I learned while doing that was you don't want to go build fence after you've been shearing sheep because your hands are so soft they just get torn up because they're so soft. Yeah.
Is that just because of the wool?
The lanolin in the wool, yes.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so Paul was a sheep shearer for 5 years in college, and but then he got into teaching, and he taught in Adrian, and then he came to LeGrand, and he taught in LeGrand. He's also been a wildland firefighter. So a lot of different jobs, all oriented around the earth, but now you've chosen to run for county commissioner. What's the thread that's brought you through all of these things and now into making like a step into the county commissioner race? And you can think about that. I know that's a hard question to touch everything.
It is, and honestly, I'm hoping I'm able to get through this without getting too emotional. It goes back to my mother and father. My father, like I said, was a professional forester, worked in the timber industry his entire life. After his semi-retirement, he purchased private ground, logged it, replanted it, and that's how he supplemented his retirement very well, and I might add. And while all this was going on, my mother, who raised myself and 4 other siblings, a fairly large family, had always been an advocate for multiple use of natural resources, lobbying in Washington, D.C., going back and bringing the natural resources message from the West to Washington, D.C., to our legislators. And I just see it a continuation of that, being an advocate. And it's easy to kind of label me as ag and natural resources, but I'm also about, education and training and getting all of those things. I think it's part of it is that complete package for the county. If we get too focused on one thing, it concerns me that something might slip by that we really need to be focusing on.
So it sounds like it sounds like, from what you're saying to me, that rather than you being like a one-issue candidate, you believe that, because you mentioned the focusing on base hits rather than the home run. Then you said, we don't want to focus too much on one issue. It seems to me that you kind of have a belief that we should not necessarily focus in on 1 or 2 issues, but we should be ready to put a little bit into where it needs in multiple different areas, lots of different areas.
Yes. I mean, and you look at, the business of a county like Union County is complex. There's transportation issues. The county has a railroad, they have a golf course, they have a incredible airport. They've got businesses that are expanding, new businesses that are coming in. We've got the natural resources. We've got by far the biggest contributor to our economy, agriculture, and kind of our shining star. And we need to take a look at bringing each from North Powder, Union, Cove, Imbler, Elgin, LeGrand, everyone being stronger will make everyone else be stronger, I believe. And and if we get so focused on one particular concept, I think we're going to miss some opportunities.
And opportunities are the foundation of Paul's campaign. So let's talk a little bit about opportunities, and that, do you see Union County as someplace, and you work with children, so you're very concerned with opportunity, the future.
Right.
Do you see Union County as some place where there is opportunity or there is not opportunity? And if not, maybe how are some areas that we could encourage opportunity in Union County?
Right. Well, if we're talking about especially the young people, and I said this many times throughout the campaign, we spend literally millions of dollars educating our young people, whether they go here to Eastern where they get a really good education, Oregon State, Portland State, you name it, wherever they're getting their higher education, we spend a lot of money there. My concern is that sometimes we don't have enough places for them to go to put those new skills to work here in our county. On the other side of that same coin is we've got students that will, for whatever reason, don't want to go to a university or a college, but we need to be able to get them some training so that they have those job skills for, and I'm not saying that they walk out of high school, get a little bit of training and go into a family wage job,
Sure.
but at least get entry level so that they can grow into a family wage job and be a really strong contributing member of society. Whether they're there's so many kids that I've seen come back from their college experience with a degree and not a lot of opportunity for a place to work. And I've seen kids that don't have that job training so that they can go to work out of high school and move into that family wage job. Some of the things that I really would like to pursue is value added to the resources that we've got here. Whether that's processing plants on a small scale for the livestock that we produce in our area. Jake Hines and his family have done an awesome job getting things moving in that direction, and I think there's some potential there. We send rail cars and truckloads of plywood, 2x4s, and particle board out of this valley. And I don't know what it is, I'm going to tell you that right now, but if we could have something that we could build out of that and sell that to consumers, value added. I mean, Boise does a great job taking raw timber and turn it into a value added product. If we could take it another step, is there a reason that we're importing it from Sweden at IKEA? I mean, kind of the same concept. Light industry, certainly there's some family wage jobs there. Those are some of the ideas that I've got.
So maybe taking the raw materials that we're producing here in the valley and maybe taking them an extra step.
Yes. Yep.
And then through that, creating somewhat lucrative jobs for young people who are coming back from college and are graduating high school.
Or those with the new sets of skills to put those skills to work, craftsmen, if you will.
Very cool, very cool.
Yeah. I mean, and again, will it work? I don't know, but I think, and I said this the other night too, and I don't mean to be crass when I say it, but if we always do what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always got.
Well, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
If you want a different result, you generally have to change
try
the way
something
you're
a little
doing
different. Yep.
A little bit at least. Very cool. Well, we're kind of running out of time here, but I kind of want to end on a note that's a little bit more, a little bit more down home than county commissioners. And so I want to maybe if you could tell us, you've taught for 22 years. Could you name one or two experiences you've had, maybe one experience you had that has just set your heart on fire for providing opportunities for these kids? Like a kid that just knocked it out of the park, or a transition that you saw, or tell me an experience you had that really made you this is why I'm teaching. This is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm in Union County. These are my people. And you can think about that, because I know that's kind of an interesting, that's kind of a tough question.
It was a number of years ago. And this is just off the top of my head. A young man came into my classroom. It was that in-service time right at the beginning of school, early September, prior to starting classes. And I don't know, I was doing something, preparing for the school year. And
something mundane,
trying to get my head wrapped around on, transitioning from summer to school. And he came in and he didn't even say anything. He just stuck out his hand, and I shook hands with him, and he said, "I want to thank you." And I said, "You're welcome. For what?" And he said, "Without your fire class and without the job that you helped me get fighting fire this summer, I wouldn't be able to pay for college." And it was like, you know what? I think I figured out why I'm doing this. And there's been multiple occasions where, and probably not to that degree, but if at any time that I provided kids with the tools to go out and make the money, earn the money, to be able to further their education or skill development or a trade school, which I've had a fair number of students do, to me that's a win. And that's probably one of my greatest accomplishments as a teacher.
Very cool, very cool. Well,
Yep.
Paul, I really appreciate you coming in and chatting
I appreciate
with me
the time.
today.
Thank you.
And thank you, LeGrand Alive, for tuning in to Coffee with Will. This Coffee with Will was brought to you by Grande High Hospital, Northwest Furniture and Mattress, Anything to Digital, EONI, and Les Schwab Tire Center. Please like and share the video, and be sure to tune in 2 Thursdays from now, not this Thursday, but the next Thursday, which I believe is the 27th. We are going to be live streaming all of the interviews for all of the county commissioners and district attorney candidates that we have. That was a long sentence. So that you can get to know your candidates before you have to vote. So that is Thursday the 27th. We're going to stick them all back to back. Paul's will also be in there along with everybody else's. So thank you for tuning in. Like I said, please like and share the video, and stay tuned to legrandalive.tv for more local content. I'm Will Bowman.